GStack was built to make AI work like a team, not one overworked assistant. Most business owners do the opposite. We ask one AI to plan, work, and check itself, and then wonder why the results are average. So I tested Garry Tan's GStack on a production problem that I have in the business. And our plain Codex scored 94 and GStack scored 92. The gap was too small to call, but the test revealed a 5-part GStack workflow that any founder can use to get more dependable AI results. The problem most business owners have with AI isn't access. You can open ChatGPT, Claude, or Codex today. You can connect them to your documents, your calendar, your CRM, your website, and half the software in your business. But more access doesn't automatically create better work. Think about how most people use AI right now. They give one chat a vague instruction, and that same AI has to work out what you meant, decide the strategy, do the work, judge its own answers, and tell you when it's finished. And no good business would hire one person to be the CEO, the delivery team, and the person signing off their own work. But that is exactly how most business owners are using AI right now. I did it with my own video system. It had powerful tools, but one job claimed it was underway when nobody was actually responsible for finishing it. Another video needed 14 dialogue versions before the mistakes were properly cleaned up. And giving the system more tools didn't fix the problem. The way the work was managed had to fundamentally change. So what is GStack? GStack is a public set of AI workflows created by a guy named Garry Tan, the president and CEO of Y Combinator. It was built for software work, and it works with tools including Claude Code, Codex, OpenClaw, Hermes Agent. The interesting part is how it divides the thinking. Instead of one AI doing everything, GStack gives it different roles. For example, you've got office hours that challenges the idea before you waste time building the wrong thing. A CEO reviews and asks whether the plan creates a useful business result. An engineering review that looks for the problems in how the work will be done. A separate reviewer tries to find what we missed. And then the QA tests whether the final thing actually works. But the key here is it's still the same underlying AI. What changed is the process it had to follow. And that distinction matters because a smarter answer is not always a more dependable result. So here's how I tested GStack. I gave Codex the same real planning problem twice. The job was to fix my unreliable AI video production system. It needed to take a raw recording, produce a finished YouTube video, create the shorts clips, and hand everything over without losing track of the work. And the first version used normal Codex. The second used GStack's office hours, the CEO review, and the engineering review. And a separate reviewer scored the plans without knowing which process created them. It checked whether each plan understood the job, found the risk, and could put the new system in place without creating another mess. And now I want to be clear about the limit of this test. I tested the plans. I didn't test which version writes better code or produces a better final video. I decided before the test that GStack needed to win by at least 10 points before I would call it a clear improvement. And just a longer answer earned no extra points for me. But the result surprised me. Plain Codex scored 94 and GStack scored 92. Both plans were still strong, but plain Codex caught more ways the work could fail. But GStack was better at planning how we could switch from the old system to the new one and how we would go back if the change broke something. And that 2-point difference was nowhere near enough to call either one a meaningful winner. So no, GStack did not magically make Codex smarter, but it highlighted something that could be more useful for business than a slightly higher planning score. It turned good habits into a repeatable sequence. Normal Codex could produce an excellent plan when it received detailed requirements, enough context, and strong instructions. The problem is that I had to remember to ask for all of that, whereas the GStack process I tested made the AI challenge the goal, consider the business result, and then review the implementation plan before anything actually began. And that is actually the bit that's worth stealing for you. So here's the 5-part GStack method. You don't need to become a developer to use the useful part of GStack. You need to stop asking one AI to do the entire job in one go. So here's the 5-part version that I would use in a real business. The first one is challenge the goal. Before asking AI to build anything, make it question the request, meaning question the requirements, which actually comes back to first principles. What are we actually actually solving here? Who has this problem? And what would a useful result change for the business? This is the office hours role. The second is to review the business decision. Ask whether the idea saves time, makes money, improves the customer experience, or removes an actual bottleneck in the business. And define what is not included and what could create risk. And this is the role of the CEO. The third is to plan the work. Now decide what information the AI needs, which tools it can use, what the order the steps should happen in, and what finished actually means. And this is the expert or operator role. The fourth is to have another role to attack the plan. Don't ask the same AI, does this look good? Because that isn't an independent check. Give a fresh reviewer one job, and that is to find the missing information, the unsafe assumptions that could have more downside risk, and the reasons the plan might fail. And the fifth is to test the result. Run it against real examples before trusting it with customers, money, or your brand. And then decide what can pass, what fails, and when the AI has to stop to ask a human. And that is my business-friendly version of the GStack pattern. Challenge, decide, plan, review, and test. So what does this actually look like in business? Imagine you want an AI receptionist or an AI lead outreach agent. The normal approach is to say, build me an AI that can answer calls and book appointments. That sounds fine until a real customer asks for a custom price or wants a refund, gives the wrong information, or something that the AI has never seen before, or in other words, what we call edge cases. Now apply the GStack method to this. The first role challenges the goal. Are we replacing the receptionist, or are we trying to stop the missed calls and book more qualified leads? The CEO role decides the business rules. The AI can answer common questions and book approved services. It cannot invent a new price, promise a refund, or handle an angry customer by itself. The operator role maps the job. Answer the call, identify the reason, check the approved information, qualify the lead, book the appointment, update the CRM, send a confirmation. The reviewer looks at the ugly cases. What happens after hours? What if the calendar's full? What if the caller gives conflicting information? Then the QA agent, which just means quality assurance, tests it with real call examples before it ever speaks to a live customer. And so you can start to see that this is the same AI, but it's a much clearer process for managing implementation. You can apply the same process to lead follow-up, customer support, content production, reporting, and internal operations as well. So when should you actually use this? For one simple email, this is probably too much process. But if the work repeats itself, affects a customer, or changes important information, spends money, or publishes under your name, those extra checks become much easier to justify. At least I can just say that's my rule for how I implement this stuff. The more damage a bad AI decision could make, the more of the GStack workflow you should use. If you already use Claude Code or Codex, I've linked the full GStack project below so you can install it and test the real workflows. And all you need to do to install this is literally open Codex, even ChatGPT or your Claude Code session, dump in the URL, and then ask it to install it globally. And then you'll have this for use wherever you want to invoke the skill. And then you just use the / command to invoke the skill. If you're using ChatGPT or Claude normally, you can still steal the sequences from this too. You can use the 5 separate prompts or conversations to challenge the goal, review the business decision, plan the work, attack the plan, and test the result. The lesson here that I want to impart is not that every business needs 20 different AI agents. It's that one AI shouldn't be allowed to create the strategy, do the work, and mark its own homework without another check. It would be the same way that if you're doing work in a team, sometimes you can't see outside your own tunnel vision. And so you need a second pair of eyes on things to make sure that you haven't actually missed certain things or defaulted to certain assumptions that haven't been challenged from an outside perspective. And if you want to see how I turn systems like GStack into AI employees that perform real work inside a business, then I'd love if you hit that subscribe button, because that's exactly what we talk more about on this channel. I'm testing the tools, showing what fails, and translating the useful parts into systems that business owners can actually apply to their real business so you don't have to waste time on the trial and error. So I'll leave that GStack link and the 5 5-part workflow below. But if you got value from this video, I'd love if you hit like and subscribe and let me know what you thought in the comments. And if you also would love to learn about how to implement AI into your business as a founder to scale with AI, not someone who is looking to start an AI business, but for founders and business owners who are looking to implement AI into their business to actually help them scale with AI, then I'll leave a link to our community below where you can join if you'd like to. And if you do, I'd love to see you there. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for your time and attention, and I'll see you guys in the next one.